Hello guys, how are you? My name is Rodrigo Murano. Welcome to Rocket Science Academy. In this episode, I wanted to share with you what I think are the three biggest tips or the three biggest, I would say, corrections I made to writing my CV that land you the most amount of interviews for rocket companies. And get you past that first initial filter that almost all rocket companies have because they have a lot of applicants, and essentially allows your CV to be more visible and lands you a lot of interviews. So on this video, I will share my CV. We will look at my CV and I will share with you the three biggest tips on how to make your CV shine a little bit more, stand out a little bit more so that you can get those interviews for rocket companies. Let me give you a little bit of background based on the topic. So these tactics or these three strategies will serve you for Rocket Lab, SpaceX, Blue Origin, and they will also serve you for the European ones, for RFA, for ISAR, for high impulse. And the reason being is that this strategy or the three tactics that I will share with you are, first of all, validated by people who've worked in the HR departments at rocket companies with whom I personally spoke with while working for a rocket company. And second, they have demonstrated, they have given me tools to be successful, to get a lot of interviews in the last year. And with these tools, I managed to go from getting zero interviews, absolutely zero, to getting at least 10 to 12 interviews in the last year or so. I was not getting any results. I was not landing interviews, and I was getting very pissed, very mad. I was trying to figure out what went wrong. And then I made some corrections. I improved my CV. I landed interviews in the rocket company. I eventually got a job there. And then while working for the rocket company, I tried to understand even better what the logic behind this recruitment filter was. And based on that, I've developed this strategy that I will share with you here of the three biggest things that you need to change to your resume right now, today, if you want to get results and you want to go work for a rocket company of any of the ones that I mentioned in Europe, in the USA. This principle still works for all of them because essentially it works for companies that get thousands and thousands of applicants each month. And this is the case for Rocket Factory, for RFA, is the case for ISAR, is the case for SpaceX. So let's go. For that, I pulled up my CV, and right now I'm working with a tool called Flow CV. I'll tell you more about this tool on another episode. But right now, what I want to share with you are three big things that I see people are failing at when trying to land jobs at and internships and jobs at rocket companies. The first one is the way in which they write their bullet points. And by the way, if you're not writing bullet points, you need to start writing bullet points. I won't talk about that right now. Your CV has to be written in bullet points. That's not even point number one. That's point zero. Point number one is your bullet points. How should they be written? Ideally, again, I'm paraphrasing someone from HR, from a rocket company, okay? The person who's worked for more than 3 years there and has seen at least 5,000 CVs in that time. What he told me is that recruiters have had, let's say, at max 15 seconds per CV. 15 seconds, okay? So in 15 seconds, you have to give them your best impression. How are you going to do that? You're going to do it by writing bullet points, of course. But then one thing he shared with me is that ideally you need to write things in, this is what I did. So a bullet point should be something like, the structure should be, this is what I did, and this is what it resulted on. If you manage to write that inside one bullet point and make it fit within one line, great. That's what you need to do. This is what I did. This is what it resulted on. In my case, as we'll see in this video, I did not write this is what it resulted on, because if you're very technical and you're applying for specific positions, which I'll share with you later, that you need to tailor your CV for the specific position. But basically, based on that, you can avoid writing this is what it resulted on. But if not, try to write things as this is what I did, this is what it resulted on. For example, if I'm saying that I coordinated electrical mechanical interfaces for bus bar and high voltage wiring, then if I had a little bit more space and I was trying to write this is what it resulted on, I would write resulted on the validation of a energy product or whatever. In this case it would be an electric battery or some sort of electrical device. But in other case it might be a rocket. For example, if you say operated high pressure pneumatic lines up to 100 bar, comma, resulting on successful deployment of blah blah blah. In this case I didn't write what it resulted on because I just wanted to go straight up with my technical skills. I just wanted to be very, very crude, very direct. And you can use this approach as well. Again, I'm telling you what the person from HR told me. Usually you need to write, this is what it resulted on. Sometimes I don't write it because I want to be very technical. I want to go direct to whatever I did. And based on other experiences I've had, this is also a good idea. For example, another example on this is what I did. This is what it resulted on. I wrote it somewhere. For example, integrated solenoid valves and regulator. And then what did it resulted on? For automated control of liquid nitrogen flow, or the one on top of that, design and assemble cryogenic PNIDs for liquid rocket engine validation. So I did write it eventually. Okay. I do have it there. It's just that when it comes to my technical skills, and this is where my CV shines in this part of the CV, it's harder to write big lines. The point is, try to write it in that way. Second thing, you need to quantify your experiences. So this is what now forget about this is what it resulted on. Actually, let's bring it back in. You have, this is what I did, this is what it resulted on. But now that's point number one. Point number two is, let's try to quantify them. So you already saw that I did that, for example, by saying that I operated high pressure pneumatic lines up to 100 bar. I wrote the specific number to which I operated pneumatic lines because you need to quantify stuff. Look at this. Let's play this game. What do you think sounds better? If I say I operated high pressure pneumatic lines up to a high pressure, or if I say I operated high pressure pneumatic lines up to 100 bar. Of course, the second one, right? Because first of all, it adds credibility to that phrase, and second of all, it makes it more quantifiable. And people look for quantifiable stuff in this industry, at least. So try to quantify stuff. Another example of that is, let's say, I don't know, whenever you win an award, try to mention the price. But pneumatically executed 50 plus hold and clamp retractions. So you need to quantify whatever you did. Or let's say you managed a team, you were managing a team of people, of engineers. Maybe you can say manage a 10 plus person team on an engineering project. Or let's say you worked with people from many different parts of the world. You can say worked on a specific project. You can say collaborated on a project with people from 50 plus nationalities, whatever. So you're quantifying that experience, and that's really good. I'm trying to see whether I did that anywhere else, but it will take me a while to find it. But essentially, you need to quantify. For example, here I wrote bigger than 100 bar. But yeah, you need to quantify it. So that's point number two. Point number three is, this is very important. If you want to get a job in a rocketry company, you need, before that, rocket companies, I don't know why, they have a fetish, for student rocketry teams. I don't know what's up with that. I know what the deal behind that is. I don't really understand why they have a fetish with student rocketry teams. I myself only participated of student rocketry teams just to get into the rocket industry. I didn't even find them so interesting because, to be honest, my time during university was quite hard already. I was struggling to pass all my courses. Imagine having time to do a student rocketry team project, which takes a lot of time, attention, effort, and also there's a lot of safety concerns and things involved. And you also need to understand like how people work. So it's basically like having a job while you're studying. So it's so freaking hard to be part of a student rocketry team, to be actively involved. But you know what, guys? It's freaking crucial. It's not even like an option. If you want a job in a rocket company, I'm not going to say like tomorrow someone's going to come up to me, is going to say, I never worked for a student rocket team and I still got a job. Great for you. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying if you have an experience on a student rocketry team, your chances of going of working for a rocket company will boost 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Why? Because this is how they pre-select people, okay? They pre-select them based on their experiences on student rocketry teams, mainly because most of the people working for those companies have themselves been part of student rocketry teams. So they know what kind of people work for student rocketry teams. They understand their logic, their mentality. They know how they breathe, how they work, the fire inside them. They understand what kind of passions you have. So it's very important. I'm not going to go through the reasons why this is the fetish, why they particularly choose people like this, and why they disregard people who don't come from student rocketry teams. But in any case, what you need to do is you need to find yourself an experience in a student rocketry team. And if you have it, of course, go write it. And if you don't have it, it's so easy to get, to be honest. Again, I myself have gone through the effort of joining a student rocketry team just to put it in my CV. And you're asking me, did you really do that? I really did that. You need to do that tomorrow. And the way you do it is if you're enrolled on a university and you're lucky enough your student has a student rocketry team, you go, you talk to them, you work with them for 3 months, and you write what you did there. Of course, you need to try to find some technical project within it. You cannot simply just say that you did clean their toilets and did their accounting, because there's like nothing relevant about that that's going to land you a job in a rocket company. What you need to try to do is you need to get hands-on with that. For example, in my case, I helped construct a test stand with which they tested the cryogenic lines that then they were going to use for the oxidizer section, because they wanted to use liquid oxygen and IPA. IPA is a rocket fuel which is typically used with like student rocketry teams, which is not cryogenic, but LOX. They wanted to use LOX, and LOX is cryogenic, liquid oxygen, of course. But for that, they use liquid nitrogen, and they wanted to set up a test stand with a cryogenic section to it, and we had to build it, we had to test it, and we had to build the PNIDs, which was fun. It's a lot of freaking work, especially if you're working as a student, especially if you're working as a master student. Anyways, go find yourself that experience and write it and try to get it as technical as possible. So for example, you can see I grabbed this CV, this CV has a CV that has gotten me interviews. I think it got me the interview with RFA, and I put it on the top, this one hasn't landed me a job with RFA because I have the RFA experience, but I tried to put it on the top for the RFA and for other companies so that they see, okay, this guy clearly has that check, that validation. Remember, 15 seconds, the first thing they see, bam, liquid student rocketry team, come on, I'm past the filter, That filter, that 80% filter is not guaranteed to land you an interview. The first filter is just the HR filter. The second filter is with the head of that team. And also he or she will appreciate in high regard that you did an experience with a student rocketry team. For you to understand how important that was, when I was in Argentina and there were no student rocketry teams, I had to eventually build a student rocketry team to start getting some experience on that. But that's for another video. Anyways, so you write it and you try to get it as the most technical as possible. So for example, in my case, design, assemble, and tested a rig for an engine using liquid nitrogen. I could have written LN2. And I could have made it more quantifiable, as we mentioned before. Or constructed PNIDs. I could have said constructed 5 plus PNIDs for the test stand, adding regulators, valves, and sensors, whatever. This CV is still not optimized, but the idea is for you to understand what the point is. Second point number 2, get that experience in the student rocketry team. I think that's point number 3, but point number 4, and that's where I will wrap it up, is many people don't do this, and it's a big mistake, and I pray that you do it. You need to tailor each CV to a specific job opening, okay? I don't have any job openings right now. Maybe I could go look for one. Let's go to Aerospace. Let's do this exercise live. If you have a particular job you're interested in, let's say you're interested in, intern avionics. So you go here, you look at the qualifications, and it says basic knowledge of avionics systems, electronics or related technologies, familiarity with CAD, circuit design or embedded systems is a plus. Okay, perfect. So what do you think is going to shine in my CV? I will write CAD everywhere. I will write embedded systems everywhere. I will write circuit design everywhere. I will write technologies everywhere. If it says production processes, I will write production processes everywhere. If it says other stuff that is related to technical stuff, production engineering, that has to do with your CV. This one is not so technical, but usually they say, okay, we're looking for someone who has CAD experience, who has Python experience. So I give them that. If someone says, let's take this previous example. So it says CAD software. So here I would add CAD software and I would bold it. So how do you optimize a CV for a specific position? And this is one thing I strongly recommend. This is point number 4, to tailor your CV to a specific position. You do it via 2 ways. Path number one is you write specific experiences tailored to that CV. So for example, let's say I wanted to make that CV for the avionics section. I would open a new bullet point and I would say, I will literally grab something from here. Familiarity with CAD software, circuit design. I would say something like build. I'm lying here, but essentially you need to be creative and try to do something like this. Build something that allows me to say CAD software with a circuit design, blah, blah, blah. If this is true, of course, like you need to actually write the experiences you've had, but try to be creative and try to see how you can manage to write the stuff from whatever position you're applying to into that particular CV. Stop writing one CV and sending it to all the applications you want. It doesn't work. I tried it. Okay. Don't do that. Craft your CV for each particular position. Reason being, different teams look at different CVs. Yes, you might argue the first person that will look at it is from the HR section, but if he or she looks at the same CV 3 times, they're like, what is this person? Where is this person trying to show me? They have 3 CVs for 3 different positions. Are they really fit for any of the 3? If you have 3 different CVs, and let's say you have applied for 3 different job openings, we'll talk about that later, about applying for how many applications you should send per company. And I usually recommend 3. The reason is that the point is you need to craft each CV to that particular application. So the way you do that is, again, by writing specific sentences tailored to that particular application, like what I just did. And the second way you do it is by bolding those particular phrases or words that they want. So in this case, they wanted someone who understands CAD software or who's worked with CAD software, circuit design, embedded systems, things like that. And I will not bold the other stuff. So imagine, forget about the rest of the CV. Imagine you're just reading the first sentence, the first paragraph. What will strike you from my CV? It will strike you that I work for a student team, rocketry student team, and it will strike you that I understand CAD software, circuit design, and embedded systems. So this is what they were looking for. And essentially, this is how you get past that first filter Okay, that first filter is a little bit unfair. I'm gonna wrap it up here. This is the fourth point, but all these tools that I share with you is essentially how you get past that first filter. Because again, this first filter is the filter where the HR person has 1,000 CVs at their hand and they give you 15 seconds and they're like, does this person match the job opening? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Pass to the second stage. Of course, they're not going to say, yes, let's give them the job. That would be stupid. They would say, yes, send on to the director of that team or send on to the person who's trying to recruit. And that second person will look at it in more detail. We'll look at stage 2 in another video where I'll tell you what that second person will, like that person who is from the team and who's looking to understand whether you have the technical capacities to actually work for the rocket company, what that person will be thinking when they look at your CV and what they'll want to see. One of those things will be if you have an experience with the student rocketry team, of course, but there are other stuff. But essentially, these 4 tips that I shared with you today are what get you past that first filter, which has cost me so many applications. I wasn't able to get interviews because I wasn't passing that first filter. I wasn't passing that first filter because I was not piercing through. Okay, so a lot of words said. Hope it serves you. And let me add that if you want to have a 30-minute free session, free consultation with me, that is an option that's available. You just need to click on the link below in this video in the description and you can enroll and you can get a free 30-minute consultation with me where we can look over your CV and I can sort of spot main errors that I've seen in many CVs that I've already checked throughout several months, and I can orient you better and give you guidance towards what you need to do if you want to work for a rocket company. So if you want to talk with me for free, just click on the link below, and if not, subscribe and like, and let's see each other on the next video. See you soon.